Okay, we are live, but we must let it breathe. Hang tight just for a second, guys. I know we've kept you waiting just a few moments more. All right, we need that O2. Get everybody in the room. Apologies to keep you on the hook. Technical difficulties, man. Sometimes they rear their ugly heads, and we just have to like whack a mole. We can't get to you guys till we get through the moles. But welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest, who you know, who you love, Zack Kelberman. Zack, kind of a sleepy football-less weekend, right? No football. It's kind of weird. It'll take I don't know. Even though the Broncos been out of it for going on 2 months, takes a little time to get used to nothing to look forward to on Sunday as far as the games themselves. Now, we look forward to our podcasts, but still, it's getting a little bit. It takes some getting used to, I guess.
Yeah, it feels like nothing's going on for the Broncos for 7 years, let alone a few months. But yeah, the first football Sunday after the Super Bowl is definitely tough. 6 months until football season gets into full swing is a little disheartening, but we have our great community, Chad. We have news that's going to be coming out every day. We have major events throughout the offseason. So we'll dive right into it as we have since, 2018? It's old hat for us now.
No doubt about it. No doubt. Shout out to Dominique, Kevin on YouTube. We've got Dylan helping us manage the chat on YouTube. Mike, all you guys, Jonathan Peterson for being patient. Richard, everyone hanging out on YouTube. Just the Duchess I see as well. John, DGX, etc. Anyway, just wanted to say thank you for your patience and waiting on us. But Zack, let's get to the first topic that I wanted to pick your brain on. It's kind of a two-banger. One, Vance Joseph, pardon me, ends up as the first, when you talk about the two big names under consideration in Denver for defensive coordinator, Rex Ryan, Vance Joseph. You had the article for us that Rex is perceived as the favorite to win the job. Well, it just so happened Vance Joseph was the first to arrive in Denver and meet in person and have that interview. Rex came the next day. But what do you interpret from that, if anything, and the fact that Vance's interview, Zack, 8 hours long he spent with Sean Payton and the new Bronco leadership there at UC Health Training Center?
Well, see, this is where no one really knows anything pertaining to the Broncos or their coaching search, because a few days ago when I think it was Jay Glazer that broke the Rex Ryan news, he said he already met with Sean Payton, maybe informally, but he made it seem like they had a sit down, they had a meeting, a face-to-face, whatever. So it's surprising that Vance technically was the first interview, but I'm not too surprised by the length of the interview either. Sean Payton's preached patience and preached due diligence and being very thorough in picking his staff and picking the assistant coaches. And I like it. You have to pick everyone's brain and really understand what they want to do with the Broncos defense and if their personalities match or clash with Sean Payton's and the new Broncos coaching staff. I don't want Vance to get the job personally, but I'm not surprised that Sean Payton would want to sit down and really get to know him for an extended period.
The more I have gone back and delved, I'll be honest with you, since Vance left following the 2018 season, so after he was fired, I very dim awareness of what he was doing in Arizona. I know he fielded a couple of decent defenses where, from a scoring perspective, they finished top 15 twice in the 4 years he's been defensive coordinator in Arizona. But his first season as DC, forgettable, and his last one, forgettable. And then you look at it, what is the draw for Vance Joseph? What is it that makes any team, for whatever, interested in him as a defensive coordinator candidate, let alone head coach, but let's just keep it DC. And why, and what about him, considering the water under the bridge with his failed regime in Denver as head coach, would be so great as to outshine whatever downside might come from, crossing the streams? Hey, there are a few guys in Denver still who served or worked, I should say, played under Vance Joseph as the head coach, including like guys like Justin Simmons. Do you really want to cross those wires, cross those streams where, hey, Sean Payton's our leader, but it's VJ, the quote unquote leader of men?
Yeah, I don't really understand it either, how VJ keeps getting chance after chance. He's never been proven in anywhere that he's been. I mean, he got the Broncos job on the back of one season as a DC in Miami, and they were among the bottom 5 in the NFL that year. Vance, in his Cardinals peak as DC, they were top 15. They weren't top 5. They weren't top 3. They weren't the best defense. They were very bend but don't break, and they were very reminiscent, if you watch the Cardinals game, of what the Broncos defense looked like under Vance. They were good sometimes until they weren't. They were failing to cover tight ends, failing to stop the run. They were bleeding yards, bleeding points in certain games. So I don't understand the allure, but at this point, Sean Payton's the big fish. He's being paid $18 million. They gave up a first-round pick and then some for him. If he thinks Vance is the guy, we got to just trust his judgment on that.
And then, of course, Rex Ryan comes in on Saturday. From what I understand, not as long, did not spend as long at Dove Valley as VJ. We'll get into that. First, though, tip of the cap to one of our legendary Mount Rushmore superstars, the Duchess, as she is known lovingly in our community, Michaela Parker. Love you, appreciate you. She says, I would prefer Sean Desai. Not sold on Vance or Rex. Much love. I wouldn't hate it. I'd be, honestly, with the exception of VJ, I'm pretty much on board. If Peyton says, yo, this is who I think is the best option to run the defense, even if it ends up being VJ, I'm not going to question that too much. All right. Just because Sean Payton, I think, is a coach that knows his strengths, knows his weaknesses, and does a good job as an administrator, as a manager, as a leader of professionals to put the people around him that check those boxes that might be his weaknesses. VJ, it's a concern, but if it ends up being a Sean Desai, if it were to be him as a hire, there's a lot to be excited about. That's a guy that Vic Fangio, who we know, right? Vic, who you can barely get a happy birthday for Teddy Bridgewater out of him, and you got to remind him, let alone Drew Lock, poor Drew. He doesn't go to great lengths, Zach, to compliment people. But in the case of Sean Desai, he's given some glowing recommendations.
He has, yeah. And I'm with Michaela. I would much prefer Sean Desai to Vance Joseph. And you can make the case that Desai would be better than Rex Ryan because he's a cut of the Vic Fangio cloth. And they have a lot of the personnel that Vic Fangio obviously would run in Denver and his defense would succeed with. The thing about Desai, when I was researching his career, in Chicago as the coordinator in 2021, they finished 3rd against the pass and 6th in scoring, points allowed. When's the last time a VJ ranked defense ranked that high? I can't remember that. So if we're going based on merit and we're going based on production and what's on paper, I'll take Desai over VJ. That's an easy choice.
David McElrath in the house, another great super chat superstar, legendary member of our community. Thank you, bro, helping us keep the lights on. And by the way, guys, go get one of your Buckham shirts, okay? We'll put the link in the stream, but the first scratch and sniff sample that I ordered from the store showed up, and it is 100% quality approved by yours truly. Get yourself one. David, love you, big dog. He says, good evening to all of us. That's really what he's saying. He's checking in. He's throwing down a few shekels to support MHH and giving shout outs to everybody. Appreciate you, David. Great to see you, bud. Lady D in the house. The ladies of MHH showing out early and often already in the chat. Deanna, thank you, my friend. She says, hey, Chad and Zach, I like Sean Desai. I hope it's not VJ. Have to stay positive, though, that our coach knows what's best for the team. Hashtag MHH for life. Yeah, and that's really, when things were going well for the Denver Broncos, Zach, it's been a while, granted, but one of the common refrains was, in John we trust, right? Back when Elway was at the controls. And I know it's been some dark days since, Super Bowl 50, but is Sean Payton, is his resume for you, Zach, strong enough to garner that kind of benefit of the doubt where it's hashtag in Sean we trust?
Yeah, I think the Broncos certainly believe so. Otherwise, they wouldn't have handed him a $18 million a year contract and forked over the draft picks after the Russell Wilson experiment as well. So, yeah, it's in Sean we trust. That's a really great way of putting it. And until he gives us a reason to doubt him, he has pelts on the wall. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. He's, has success almost every season in New Orleans. At this point, we have no reason to doubt Sean Payton. And if he thinks someone like VJ is the guy, then until VJ bombs, we have no reason to doubt his judgment.
Nathan, it's good to see you, brother. if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves, Nathan, well, first of all, I know, Nate, you've been with us a long, long time, but if memory serves, you're in Hawaii, right? You're one of our great Hawaiian community members. We have so many great bona fide superstars from paradise, aka Hawaii, like D Dub and many others. But Nathan, it's great to see you, bro. Thank you for the super chat. He says the mention of Vance Joseph is a constant reminder that we could have had Kyle Shanahan. Maybe in some alternate universe, Zach, it happened, and great things occurred for the Broncos.
Kyle Shanahan and Wade Phillips. That's the kicker there. I mean, that's a Super Bowl caliber staff on paper. And the last 7 years, 6 years wouldn't have gone the same if Kyle Shanahan was hired, Chad. I firmly believe that. Maybe they wouldn't have hoisted another Lombardi, but they damn sure wouldn't have been in the dregs of the NFL each and every season. Coaching was the biggest whiff of that time span, not quarterbacking. And Kyle Shanahan would have remedied a lot of that.
John, aka D Generation X, jumping in with the super. Thank you, bro. It's good to see you tonight. He says, why not both of them? Rex Ryan as the defensive coordinator and then VJ as some sort of assistant somehow. Hey, maybe they're thinking that, John. Maybe they're cooking something up, but that's a lot of testosterone on the defensive side to put in one room. It's like, who's the boss here? But Adam Schefter, and by the way, Phil, love you, big dog, in Tucson. You want to talk about superstars and big time supporters. This man is one of them, and we love you, big dog. He says, good evening, Priest and Deacon Scott. Has there been an interview with Sean Desai? Hashtag go Broncos, hashtag buck 'em. Zach, what do you know?
Yeah, they've talked to Sean Desai. He was one of the first they actually sat down with on Vic Fangio's recommendation. And then we've heard pretty much nothing about the interview or how they feel about Desai. All we've heard is that they've targeted Vance and Rex Ryan and even loosely considered Mike Zimmer a candidate as well. So we'll have to see how it shakes out.
For what it's worth, Adam Schefter, who confirmed that Rex was in the building yesterday, said that, as an ESPN analyst, he isn't looking to leave the comfortable, lucrative trappings, let's say, of the media world, Zach, unless it's the quote unquote perfect situation. So, first of all, if you try and put yourself behind the eyes of a Rex Ryan, what do you think is the perfect situation? And that being the case, once you know what it is, are the Denver Broncos that?
I think, as always, it's possibility meets the financials. He wants to be highly compensated, maybe the highest paid DC in the NFL, but he wants to go to a team that he feels he can compete with and win that ever elusive Super Bowl ring. That's where I think Rex's mindset is. And he also wants the players in place. He also wants to come into a ready-made situation, not a rebuild, not a terrible team. The Broncos are far from that. They're not rebuilding. They have a lot of talented pieces on defense. And just the prospect of coaching, PS2 alone or Justin Simmons alone, I think would appeal to Rex. And having the richest ownership group in the NFL, that doesn't hurt either.
It's hard to, unlike with salary cap and player contracts, there aren't any publications that track how much coaches get paid. And really, the only time we ever find out numbers or anything like that is when an agent or a team or whatever opts to make that public, like in the case recently of Sean Payton and his contract with the Broncos, making him the second highest paid head coach in the NFL. With regard to coordinators, it becomes even more tight-lipped. We hear things like in the case of Vic that he's the highest paid coordinator in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins. Good rule of thumb is average NFL coordinator is somewhere around $1 million a year. All right. Like a average NFL, whether it's offense or defense. So maybe somebody like Rex Ryan, Zach, maybe he could command upwards of $2 to $3 million. I don't know. But at the same time, he's been out of the league a while. Now, it doesn't bother me as much as it does some other people, but that maybe gives the Walton Penner Group a little bit of a bargaining chip in terms of whittling whatever his ask might be down a little bit.
It could be. One thing I've gleaned from the Walton Penner ownership group is that if they want their guy, they're going to get their guy. And if they go to Sean Payton and Sean Payton says, listen, I want Rex, we need Rex, I want to pay him a insane amount of money. I want to consider making him the highest paid coordinator in the NFL. I don't think Greg Penner would, snub his nose at that. I think he would go along with what Sean Payton wants if and only if Rex Ryan is determined to be the guy. They're not going to pay him, $10 million a year, let's say, but I would not be surprised if they hire him. He's top 3 in salary on an annual basis.
Jonathan Peterson, love you, big dog, and Sue Gibson. We're going to get him back to back. Sue Gibson saying, hi, men. Got my Buckham t-shirt last week. Love it. Send us in an email, Sue, or DM it to us on Twitter or whatever's easiest for you if you want, and we'll put it up on Instagram with a big flex and a thank you for supporting the brand. milehighhuddle@gmail.com. Really easy. Just shoot it over to us. Understandable, though, if you don't want to. She says, do you think if Russell Wilson doesn't succeed, Zach, he'll be released at the end of 2023?
This is another situation where at the end of this season, if it's not definitive that Russell Wilson could be the guy or at least a average quarterback, Greg Penner and Condoleezza Rice, the ownership group, they'll go to Sean Payton and say, listen, what do you want to do about Russell Wilson? Do you want to keep him? Do you think we should move on? And if Sean Payton deems it necessary for the Broncos to move on, then I think Greg Penner would turn around to George Payton or whatever, de facto GM is in place by then and say, listen, work on it and get Russell Wilson out and get Sean Payton his own quarterback, either through free agency or the Broncos having their first round draft pick back in 2024. So it's very touch and go in terms of Russ. I think it's wait and see and kind of, cross that bridge when they come to it. We all hope, though, they don't have to make that decision, releasing him, trading him, whatever. We all hope that Russell Wilson succeeds because the Broncos have a lot of time, money, and energy tied up into him.
Barring an injury, I have a really hard time seeing any quarterback that starts for Sean Payton not doing well. Maybe Russ's days of, producing at an elite level, statistically, maybe those are in the rear view, maybe not. But I have a hard time seeing him get coached by Sean Payton and provide another year like we had this past season. And I think it would take that kind of a season for the Broncos to pull the plug on the Russell Wilson experiment, just because even though it becomes a little more palatable following 2023, it is still not without pain or as far as the dead cap and all that. So anyway, Jonathan, brother, he says, who's a dark horse defensive coordinator candidate that we haven't heard of? A lot of chatter for. And is there anyone for OC? OC, less a concern. Just curious of the rumors. I haven't heard anything, Zach, other than the names that have been made public through, verified reporting on the defensive coordinator side of things. And it's been even more quiet on offensive coordinator. What have you heard?
Well, the Broncos wanted Ronald Curry, or at least they wanted an interview with Ronald Curry. He is the Saints quarterbacks coach, obviously familiar with Sean Payton. Unfortunately, Ronald Curry has decided to remain in New Orleans, so he's out of consideration for the Broncos OC job. And I don't know where else they go. We've heard no names on that side of the ball except for Ronald Curry as an interview candidate. We haven't heard Joe Lombardi being requested for an interview. I think that's a logical solution because he's not calling plays. If he just sticks to quarterback developing and helping with the game plan, let's say, that's fine. But a lot of people don't want Joe Lombardi because of how he did in LA and calling plays. They wouldn't have that issue. And he just needs, Peyton does, someone he's familiar with. Who that is, though, remains to be seen.
Exactly. I mean, with Sean Payton, offensive coordinator ends up being more of a, another brain in the room to help with game planning and organizational execution, management, etc. Sean Payton is your de facto offensive coordinator. It really comes down to getting that defensive coordinator hire right and getting it locked down ASAP. But they're taking their time with it. We do know one other little nugget on the coach hiring front is Broncos are expected to retain Christian Parker, secondary coach, and defensive line coach Marcus Dixon. And Dixon, for what it's worth, has a past history as a player with Rex Ryan. So that is a piece of intrigue. FA, what's up, brother? Thank you. Very generous super chat. One of our Mount Rushmore superstars, for what it's worth. Very generous. Thank you, bro. He says, hello, fellas. I hope all is well. It is. He says, work has been busy. Question, where do I get that dope Buckham shirt? Also, Rex might be what we need as a defensive coordinator. Blitz the crap out of Mahomes, LOL. Also, any word on the OC title? They have been quiet on that front. Yeah, it's kind of been crickets on OC. But yes, I mean, Rex Ryan, this is something Nick Kendall wrote about today in an article that's very, very much worth the read. Just kind of the different things Rex throws at quarterbacks. And you wonder how much of that is still going to play with the way the league has evolved since Rex has been out of the league. But there's a little snippet that I'll read here from Nick's article where he says, quote, while simulated pressures have become much more the norm in today's NFL, Rex's usage of different bodies to hide the blitz, but then come after the quarterback, show blitz, but then drop back into coverage, bring extra rushers, or show blitz and not come at all, will play nicely in the current trends of the more pressure-oriented teams. So I still like Rex Ryan's odds, Zach, of being able to step right back into the NFL. There might be a few things he'll have to get apprised on, but covering the league as he has so closely at ESPN, again, this is not a guy that, just been sitting on his hands, drinking martinis on the beach. He's still been involved in the goings on of the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you like aggressive defensive football, you would love the hell out of Rex Ryan. He's a very fun coach when he's on your side. And I could see why the Broncos are intrigued by him. His personality, his ability is all well noted and documented. The only apprehension that really exists about Rex Ryan is the fact that he hasn't been coaching since 2016. Other than that, though, he is one of the best defensive minds ever, in my opinion, in league history. He's right up there with the Vic Fangios, with the Wade Phillips of the world, both former Broncos. He was a coordinator in 06 in Baltimore. That year, they had the best defense in the NFL. They had 60 sacks and 40 takeaways. The guy knows how to get after the quarterback. Nick wrote about the pressure schemes that he shows. If you want to stop Mahomes, if you want to fight fire with fire, then Rex Ryan is your guy.
By the way, though, too, FA, to answer your question, if you want to know how to get one of these Buckham shirts, it's easy, brother. Sue, hang tight just for 1 second, all right? It's very easy. MHHmerch.com. MHHmerch.com, all right? And then I put the link in the chat earlier. If you weren't here when that happened, you might not be able to scroll back up, but it's easy to find, dude. Just type into your browser, MHHmerch.com, enter, and it'll take you straight there. You just find the shirt, boom, bada bing, bada bang. All right. Sue's second super chat of tonight. Thank you, my friend. She says, I read today the Packers may want Jerry Jeudy for a second-round pick and a fourth-rounder. What do you think if it's true? If it's true, Zach, not worth the juice, not worth the squeeze. What he showed down the stretch, man, I seriously licking my chops at what he might be able to do in a Sean Payton offense, and just with competent schematic coaching and an elevated quarterback performance too. Like I'd be all about that if it was for Cortland Sutton, but Cortland's not going to garner that coming off that injury, and then two kind of so whatever years, 800 yards receiving, etc. And especially this year, Zach, where you're catching passes, albeit from a oddly diminished Russell Wilson, but you only scored twice. You only hit Pater twice, Cortland Sutton. A little curious, but your thoughts on Sue's question.
If this is true, Green Bay can kick rocks. I'm not trading Jerry Jeudy. Not saying he's untouchable, but he's the Broncos' best offensive player as far as I'm concerned. Definitely wide receiver one. And yeah, if you're going to trade a receiver, which I don't think the Broncos should do, they should keep the band together and give Russell Wilson as much weaponry as possible. I would rather trade Sutton well before I'm even talking about trading Jerry Jeudy. So I don't see it happening, and I would hate it if it did happen.
I haven't seen any bona fide reports on that. So, but Sue, if you have something that you've seen from someone credible, send it to us on Twitter or something. I've seen a lot of kind of analysis and fan sites saying Packers should trade for Jerry Jeudy, etc. But nothing that you would, run with as report. Packers interested, Jerry Jeudy, second round pick, etc. The Duchess jumping in again. Wow, thank you, Caleb. We love you. Near and dear to our hearts, you know this. She says, can we fill out a petition to get Sean Desai? Hell no on VJ. You guys mean the world to me. Right back at you, and I hope you know that's true.
Yeah.
We love you. Can't wait to see you again in the fall at the next meet and greet. It's going to be a gas, but Michaela is one of our true dear friends, and more than just a supporter, or I don't know. She's become someone that will DM personally back and forth and whatnot. Love you, Michaela. You're awesome.
Michaela, like FA and so many others, they're part of the actual fabric of MHH. You guys are foundational members of the community, and we love you so much. Thank you so much, guys.
Um, but she's all about that. She's all about that, Sean Desai. And FA again, wow, dude. Just because you guys are awesome, he says. No, you are. FA, by the way, don't order a Buckham shirt. We'll send you one. And Michaela, if you haven't ordered one, don't order one. We'll send you one. Okay. Love you guys. Thank you for the support. Seriously. It's the least we can do as a thank you. Austin, brother, thank you for the super. He says, I saw some reports that the last regime didn't think highly, pardon me, of Judy. Why would that be? Well, you'd have to give me a little bit more specific on what the reporting for me to speak to it. But, think about this. Let's just, for the sake of our conversation here, Zach, assume that there's some veracity to the notion that the Hackett, regime didn't love Jerry Jeudy. Well, if you think about it, how he went into last season, still a lot of, you had the arrest incident, kind of a failure to launch after a promising rookie year. Just kind of the way he handled himself in the media. Who knows how he behaves or comports himself in meeting rooms? I don't know. I'm throwing it out there that I could understand how a misguided, failed head coach like Nathaniel Hackett, it wouldn't be beyond the pale for me to learn he wasn't high on Jerry Jeudy. But obviously, as the season wore on, if that was truly their outlook on Jeudy, they were made to look a fool.
Just to I guess steelman this, even though I believe the last regime were clowns who don't have any business judging anybody else. They have no investment or had no investment to Jerry Jeudy. They didn't draft him. They inherited Jeudy, and they inherited the baggage of Jerry Jeudy, like Chad laid out, the drops, the injuries, the arrest, him really not developing into that first round superstar receiver, similar to a Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb. Jerry Jeudy is a couple tiers below that, but he did not end the season a couple tiers below. He is on the upswing. He's ascending. So I don't care what the last regime has to say about Jerry Jeudy or thinks about him. It's all about Sean Payton now, and I guarantee you he's going to be a bona fide star in this offense.
Agreed. I can't wait to see how he does with Sean Payton and an expected upgraded Russell Wilson. Always try to get to at least one Twitch comment or question every single night. Damage Inc., thank you for joining us on Twitch, my friend. He wants to know, Zach, do you think Sean Payton can get this team to be a contender in his first season, or is it going to take a while? Is it going to take a couple seasons? What's your feel on that?
This is always the age-old, define contender. It's such a subjective word. Is contender finishing 9-8? Is it a wild card berth? Is it a division title? Is it a Super Bowl contender? I would like for the Broncos to be on the plus side of the win-loss column. Let's start there. Let's get to 9-8, 10-7, and go. I'm not saying that should be the standard, but that would be a contending team, contending for a playoff spot. We have to be realistic. They're probably not going to knock off Kansas City off that perch in year one, but they can build momentum toward doing so. Maybe end that streak. Let's start there. To me, if the Broncos being a contender is beating Kansas City for once, beating the Raiders for once in the first time in 2-3 years, and finishing with an above average record and putting yourself in a position where you can make the tournament, if not make the tournament outright. That would be a contender to me.
I just want to see this team look, a sign of a massive step forward to me would be don't get swept by the Chiefs. Don't get swept by the Raiders. I'm going to echo a lot of what you just said. And just be competitive. Be in the conversation down the stretch.
Yeah.
That to me, and it might sound defeatist, but after what we've been through with the ups and downs of the high expectations and then being crashed down to the earth, that will be enough for me in year one to be like, okay, everything's moving the way it should. And with the experience you have in Peyton, and we'll see what he ends up bringing experience-wise to the defensive coordinator position. And Russell Wilson, I got to assume on some level, Zach, if the Broncos are relevant down the stretch, they're going to find a way, make a way to parlay that into something that looks like a playoff berth. Now, winning the AFC West, that's always going to be a tall order as long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are doing their thing in Kansas City, but it's not beyond the pale, so to speak.
But you know why they're going to be in contention and maybe have that little push extra? Because of coaching. It's been the missing link for 7 seasons now since Gary Kubiak. They have that advantage on the sideline. And listen, if you want a podcast where we get up here and say that Sean Payton's going to lead the Broncos to a title in year 1, this is not the pod for you. We have to keep it realistic as well. If there's any coach, though, that they could have hired in this cycle, Jim Harbaugh included, to get the most out of the offense, to fix Russell Wilson, and to get the Broncos back to respectability and contention, it is Sean Payton, though. We don't have crystal balls. We can't see what the Broncos record is going to be in 2023, but I can speak for Chad, we're both very, very confident that finally they've solved that long-standing Achilles heel at coach with Mr. Sean Payton.
Amen. FA again, yo, dude, on fire tonight. Thank you, bro. Seriously. Thank you so much. He says, Scott and Nick went on vacation. Now it's y'all turn to go on vacation. This is my donation to that. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, you know what? They needed it. Everyone needs to take a little step away at times and recharge the batteries. And I did that last summer when I went and recorded that album with my band. And I'll probably do some more stuff like that this summer, playing shows with the band and some festivals and stuff, where it's a little surgical strike, a weekend here, whatever. We'll get our time off. Don't worry about it, FA. Zach, I don't know what you've got planned for vacays this year.
Nothing yet, though. That's what I was going to say. We are full steam ahead. A lot of major events coming up. We have the Combine coming up, free agency, the draft after that, mini camps, and so on and so forth. We look to take some time off in the summer, like Chad said, late June, but nowhere in the near future am I taking any time off.
Wow, the community,
wow,
the Maven, the Mount Rushmores are throwing down tonight. Michaela, love you so much. Seriously, she says Judy is a goof off as a player. Judy goofed off as a player after Hackett got fired. What? Scott's doing this. I don't know.
Judy goes off as a player.
Oh, right. Judy goes off as a player after Hackett got fired. Judy is wide receiver 1. MHH is tops. MHH for life. Yeah, see, again, sometimes the syntax, I get a little over my skis, as it were. But yeah, that's no coincidence, Zach, that Jerry Jeudy's, honestly, even counting his rookie year, those last 5-6 weeks of this past season were phenomenal for Jerry Jeudy, especially those last 2 games. I'm trying to think exactly what his production was. We can look it up, but the Hackett thing, whatever. Jerry Jeudy emerged down the stretch. I'm happy for him because, Zach, he's been pretty hard on himself over the fact that, he was a top 15 pick. He was a first rounder, highly touted Alabama wide receiver. A couple other guys came in the league that same class with him that have gone on to have much greater early success in their career. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and he hasn't quite reached that level of them yet. But I think that showed at the end of last season that he's on his way.
Every player went off after Hackett was fired. It was no coincidence. Russell Wilson looked the best as a passer he had all season, even as a runner. Didn't he have 2 touchdowns on the ground in that Kansas City game in the last couple weeks?
Yes.
So the whole offense was markedly better without Hackett in the picture. And that's what leads me to such optimism in chat as well. If they look that good with Jerry Rosberg and Justin Outten as the head coach and OC, how good can they possibly look healthy and rejuvenated and under better coaching with Sean Payton? My guess would be a lot.
PJ Rivas in the house. Thanks, big dog. He says, hey guys, just showing some love. We really appreciate it, PJ. He says, next season will be exciting. We finally have a coach with experience. Only good things can happen. Indeed. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds and takes shape. And in between now and when the cleats hit the grass, so to speak, even OTAs, we got some benchmark, lightning rod events to look forward to, not just the free agent opening of the new league year, all that, the signings, but the draft. Man, it's going to be fun. And even though the Broncos are a little bit diminished this time around with regard to their draft darts to throw at the board, I can't wait. Michael, brother, appreciate you as always.
Thank
One
you,
of our
Michael.
great Mount Rushmore supporters in the house, Michael Ronquillo. Seriously, thank you, big dog. Love you. Seriously, big love to you. You know this, big dog. You the man.
Thank you, Michael. As always, thank you.
We got the Lady D again. Holy
Thank you,
smokes.
Deanna.
You guys are going off the chain. Thank you, D. Seriously. She says, I'm very hopeful that Wilson will thrive under great coaching. We need O-line in order for that to happen. Desai or Rex, either one will work, in my opinion. You guys are awesome. Bridge the gap. MHH for life. Thank you, Deanna. You're the bomb.com. We love you. Rex to me is still the number one, I think, is as far as just cachet, experience, skins on the wall. Take a defense that outkicked its coverage last year with a first-time coordinator, even in the face of different injuries across a trade that happened midseason, one of the best players. I think he's a guy that you could trust, Zach, to take those pieces and not only keep it intact, so to speak, but elevate it. My question would be, what would Rex Ryan's plan be to get better production out of the edge rushers, including Randy Gregory, but Nick Benito, Baron Browning? Would he view Baron Browning as an edge guy? Would he get moved back to off ball? Can't wait to see.
From what I remember, Rex made a lot of chicken salad at outside linebacker when he was the Jets head coach. And to an extent as well, in Baltimore, he turned a lot of no-name players into household names, Bart Scott included. So I have high hopes for Nick Benito, Jonathan Cooper under Rex's tutelage. Just to shift gears slightly on this topic, Chad, you brought up something in the first 5 minutes, and I've spent the last now half hour thinking about it. If you're the Broncos or any team, what does VJ bring to the table that is a selling point for himself? Because someone mentioned maybe he can be an assistant coach, like a secondary coach. His secondaries have never been good, even going back to the Dolphins. He has never been proven anywhere on any NFL stop. And nothing personal against VJ. Seems like a great guy to hang out with, great guy to have a beer with. But when you compare him to someone like Rex Ryan or even Sean Desai, who had top 5 defenses in certain categories, it's really a no-brainer.
I think, I had that same query in the article I wrote about his 8-hour interview yesterday. And the only thing I can really come up with, Zach, is that the fact that he does now have 5 years of experience as a coordinator and then those 2 years as a head coach, and his overall reputation, we can kind of scoff at it from the outside looking in, just because it didn't come out on the wash. We didn't see the results of his leadership of men reputation. But I think the fact that he's perceived anyway, Zach, around the league as a veteran, high profile former head coach, relatively young. He's 50 now, but relatively young coordinator that has unusual management experience and just a great reputation for organization and leadership. That's what it boils down to. Now, for us, we kind of scoff at all that stuff just because we never saw it come out in the wash for the Denver Broncos, but that's kind of the perception of him around the league. And maybe Sean Payton is of the opinion, because there are people who think this, that both VJ and Vic got a raw deal in Denver just because the front office never got the quarterback right. That if they would have had the quarterback right, both those guys or either of those guys would have had a better leg to stand on. There wouldn't have been failed regimes in hindsight. And who knows, Zach, maybe Sean Payton is of that opinion. Maybe he thinks Vance Joseph, Vic Fangio, Vic's resume, for what it's worth, as a coordinator is long and storied. Like his 3 years as a head coach in Denver, it's whatever. Everyone knows what he brings to the table. It goes all the way back to the early 90s with Vic. With VJ, I think that's what it boils down to. And maybe just Sean is like, look, I like a lot about Vance Joseph, and who knows, maybe if he would have had a quarterback, he would have done well. Well, guess what? Now he'd have a quarterback if he was in the defensive coordinator of the Broncos. We got Russ and he's got me. So I want to take a look-see here at Vance Joseph.
Y'all know I'm not a huge fan of Vic, but his resume as a DC craps on Vance Joseph's as a DC. And maybe that excuse, maybe that line of thinking applies to Vic because we never really knew how it would turn out. But Vance was a DC in Arizona. So we saw in two different stops what his defense looks like. And again, if top 15 was the best he could muster, that's not acceptable enough for me. When you have a first timer like a Giro Evero coming in and having, I mean, until injury set in, Chad, toward the end of the year, they were top 5. We broke it down every week. They were top 5 in almost every single defensive category. So if a Giro Evero can do that, imagine what Rex Ryan could do. Imagine what Sean Decided can do. But if Vance wants to come in here and the best he can do is top 15, top 12, sorry. 8-hour interview or not, good guy or not the right guy for the job, as far as I'm concerned anyway.
Phil, love you, big dog. Thank you for the props. Thank you for the stars. And Michael on Facebook. I mean, that's like 3 massive star donations from Mike just like in the last week alone, dude. So hope you know how much you mean to us. And we'll get a little something coming your way as well, Mike, as a thank you. You've got a jersey to look forward to. That should be coming soon. But thanks to everybody on Facebook that supports what we do here at MHH and on all of our podcasts. We love you. Zach, we're at about 41 minutes and we started late. So we'll start kind of winding things down. Anything specific, guys, that you want us to talk about before we dip tonight, get it in the chat. But your thoughts on an article that came out today. Nick, I think, published it. Chase Edmonds being a pretty obvious cap casualty candidate for the Denver Broncos, set to make just under $6 million on the cap this year. Now, just to rewind it for a second, Chase Edmonds was acquired from the Miami Dolphins as part of the Bradley Chubb trade. He didn't really Broncos, he did have an injury, but when he was available, the Broncos, that staff wasn't quite able to figure out how to make use of him. But is there any world in which Chase Edmonds, Zach, what you know about this cat, is worth a $6 million salary cap in 2023?
Hell no. And I never viewed Chase Edmonds as great as a lot of Broncos fans thought he played last year. He was okay as a change of pace running back, but I am gutting that room. You know, I'm letting Mike Boone walk. I'm cutting Chase Edmonds. I may be bringing back Latavius Murray, but it's Javonte and then a bunch of unknowns. I am not tying up the salary cap unnecessarily with someone like Chase Edmonds, who was thrown into that trade, by the way, with Miami for a reason. The Dolphins wanted to dump him and dump his salary. He's an easy cut.
Yeah, and honestly, shame on the Broncos for not making some hay with Edmonds while, they had no way out or around that contract. But golly, Lady D,
Wow,
seriously,
Deanna.
tonight between
Wow.
your various super chats, FA, the Duchess. I mean, this is why we know how lucky we are to have you in our community
Every
and
day.
everybody. Seriously. Hats off to you. Much love and respect. Seriously. She says, who do you think is the big player in it? This isn't the first time she's joined the 200 Club, Zach. She's done it before, but she's now firmly ensconced in that rarefied air. She says, who do you think is the big player they're talking about releasing? I see nothing positive for VJ. Still putting my trust in our coach. You guys are awesome. Seriously, love you. Thank you very much. Well, based on what the reporting was and what we heard from, I think, Benjamin Albright confirming on a KOA broadcast last week that it's possibly Garrett Bowles. All right. So your thoughts, Zach, on the possibility of Garrett Bowles being dangled as trade bait for an O-line that even with him, you're looking to replace 3 starters likely in 2023. You move on from him. Quinn Miners becomes your only grandfathered starter from 2022 that you want in that same role this season.
Yeah, I'm assuming Deanna's talking about the trade and not release. I don't know if that was a separate report or rumor.
Oh, maybe.
We gave our opinion on the Garrett Bowles trade speculation. I'm not, you guys know, I'm not a big Garrett Bowles fan, and I don't think he's worth the money, but you would be getting more picks to fill more holes while creating another hole at left tackle. And Chad laid out on Thursday's podcast the four most important positions on an NFL team, and left tackle is arguably number two behind quarterback. So you have some sort of stability in there, and you can't gut the whole offensive line. You can't expect Sean Payton to have four new offensive line starters and coaching Russell Wilson in year one and expect to have success. So maybe if the Broncos, Chad, were blown the hell away with a trade offer, I'm talking a first round pick and then some, maybe I would do it. But for a second and some change, it's just not worth it to trade Garrett Bowles.
And that's what I was going to say is Garrett Bowles isn't about to fetch you a first round pick, especially coming off of a season that was mostly lost to injury. So I think best case, like absolute best case scenario, you could get out of Garrett Bowles is probably a third round pick, maybe a two because he's a left tackle. But you got to remember, he ended the season injured. That decreases a player's value regardless of what position he plays. If anything, Zach, this to me smacks of like the type of public arena machinations that teams do to kind of make a player in his camp more malleable to the possibility of a restructure or pay cut. It wouldn't surprise me if the Broncos ultimately go to Garrett Bowles and say, hey, we want you on the team. We see you as our starter, our linchpin left tackle. But in order for us to, make hay and build this thing the way we need to win, we need you to take a step back financially. And he's going, yeah, I'd rather that than be traded. Sure. Sign at the dotted line. That's really the only upside I see here in terms of reasonable outcomes that would benefit the Broncos.
Well, here's my thing. If you get a second round pick for him, as you're saying, which would be his ceiling, I agree with that as well. You'd have to turn around realistically and then use that second round pick on a left tackle. And is that second round pick going to be as good as Garrett Bowles? I mean, the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. We all know what Garrett Bowles is. I think he's a top 12 left tackle, being paid like a top 10 left tackle. Fine. You can get by with that. But you're chancing trading him for draft picks and then chancing an unknown commodity in that starting role, all for what? To save a few bucks against the salary cap? It would be a bum move as far as I'm concerned. Now, if Deanna, real quick, Chad, was talking about releasing a player, the one that comes to mind that would be a surprise is Ronald Darby, starting cornerback, but you'd be gaining, 12, 13 million, whatever it is, 10 million in cap room, and negligible dead cap hit as well. That would be the surprise release, but that's not so much a surprise to me.
Yeah, to me, releasing Ronald Darby is fait accompli. Like, I think that's happening. Maybe I wouldn't view it quite so sure if you were having regime year over year consistency. In other words, if the Hackett regime had managed to hold on. But at the end of the day, too, I guess it was George Payton that brought him here, and he's still around. So Elisander from Colombia, heck yeah, always watching. He said, that's great. Broncos country, not a geographic location. It is a state of being. Zach, I think Scott puts it well here in our private chat. Let's say the best you could get back from Garrett Bowles in a trade is like a third round pick. And you go, hey, we could use that. We're short on picks right now. And you'd save 10 million on the cap or whatever it might be, right? Well, think about this. You would need at least half of that to sign a replacement. So you end up cutting off your nose to spite your face anyway. There's no upside there, really. This to me just, again, smacks as trying to get him into a corner a little bit, make him a little bit more open to, some team-friendly maneuvers here. Luke, brother, love you, big dog. Says best Broncos coverage out there. Seriously, thank you, buddy. I was glad to be able to connect with you officially, too, on Twitter the other day, so appreciate you, Luke.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. And Scott is definitely right about Garrett Bowles. It's there's more to lose than there is to gain as far as I'm concerned. And in terms of the salary cap, a lot of Broncos fans are overreacting to Denver only having 12, 10 million, whatever it is, but they're going to roll unused cap over from this past year into 2023. And if they cut three players, I know it's Darby, Chase Edmonds, and there's somebody else. They could save Glasgow. They could save like $25 million. That's a lot of money. You don't have to trade Garrett Bowles because you're in a pickle financially. There are so many things you can do, ways to finesse and massage the salary cap well before I'm considering trading my starting left tackle.
Indeed. Guys, before we dip on out of here, really excited about something I want to share with you. We'll grab one or two more comments here. But guys, on Friday, This is dope. If you have your volume cranked right now, turn it down just a little bit, okay? But I want you guys to go check out the new Bridge the Gap video for our single called Over the Target. Zach has seen it. Zach approves, all right? I don't think Scott has seen it, but I'm just going to give you a really quick glimpse of this, just a few seconds. But smash the link. I'll put it in the chat. Go check that full lyric video out. Give it a like, give it a comment. Bridge the Gap, Over the Target. So go check it out, guys. I'm putting the link in the chat. Appreciated your support on that first single. You guys have really done me proud. Go check out Over the Target on YouTube, the lyric video, and give me your thoughts as well. Always want to hear how you guys feel about it. But Zach, any other burning topics we need to get to tonight?
The special teams coordinator and Mike Westhoff being hired.
Yeah, your thoughts. I'm still trying to figure out how to pronounce his name. I'll pull it up here, but your thoughts on it.
Oh, I don't want to, after butchering Dalrymple, I don't want to give this a shot. I think it's Ben Kotwika. I don't know. All I know is him and Mike Westhoff, the 75-year-old coaching legend who was hired in an advisor. I think he's assistant head coach and special teams advisor. They both worked with Rex Ryan in New York. So make of that what you will. That would lead me to believe that Sean Payton wants some of Rex's guys around. And why would he want that? Because Rex is going to be the DC. That's my theory.
So I'm trying to do a share screen here, but this is how the dude's name reads. Okay, stand by here. Let me get this out of the way for everybody. 1 second. Jeez, ads. What are you gonna do? Charge it to the game? Come on now, pause for me. It wants to freeze. Anyway, this is how you pronounce this man's name right here. Or how it reads anyway. Ben Kotwika. Haven't heard from. Usually the team, Zach, does a really great job to help us out in the media on pronunciations, but we haven't had anything official yet from the team on this subject. So all we can do is stab at it. But yeah, he's got some experience, and you bring in also Mike Westhoff, who's got a lot of experience as a assistant under Peyton and kind of overseeing special teams. I think it's a solid win for the Broncos.
Yeah, we've nailed down some tougher names, including Okuwebanam. I feel like we can get Kotwika down. If not, he's Coach K. But this is, I see a comment from Todd saying Kotwika, whatever, on his own is not so exciting to me. The good thing is Mike Westhoff can be like the Jerry Rosberg, who, while he might not be the coordinator in title, he's going to oversee that unit, and Mike Westhoff is a legend on that side of the ball. So I wouldn't be too concerned. They need a win, though, Chad, don't they, on special teams? Since Joe DeCamillis left, they've had Brock Olivo and Tom McMahon.
22 Janos, hashtag.
They need a win for sure.
Mike, appreciate you, brother. Seriously, appreciate your support. Everybody in the chat. Nick Hale, good to see you on Facebook. Big Dog, your Prince, appreciate your support. But we're going to call it for tonight, guys. Much love and respect. Don't leave quite yet, though, because we do have a few messages for you.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much for tuning into the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod, the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like the brand new Buckham shirt that Chad's rocking, I'll be rocking very soon, a hat, anything else, check out the new website, mhhmerch.com, and go get yourself a Buckham shirt. They're going really, really fast. If you haven't as well, go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Be sure you're liking that page and following that page. And also, boys and girls, go to Apple Podcasts and leave your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win. Could be a Buckham shirt, could be a hat, could be anything each and every single month. But if anything, please, it's imperative you subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
One last super chat before we dip on out from Oi Boy 90, my brother in orange and blue and punk rock. He's saying, Oi, oi, Chad, bridge the gap. That new track is fire, brother. I definitely feel the Bad Religion vibes and influence there for sure. Hashtag MHH. Scott says Megadeth. I don't know. That song I wrote after going on a binge of this other band called In Flames. That's a metal band. Not everything is that kind of metal. I was almost going to say metallic, but if you're going to say metallic, then you got to say Metallica, and I'm not that into Metallica. Although bow down, they're the bomb. But anyway, thank you, Josh. Hope you're doing well. Hope the 60 bus is treating you well. Also, big dog. But yeah, love you guys. Thank you. We're out of here. See you tomorrow night. It's going to be a gas. Scott, Broncos for breakfast on the bright. All right. So business as usual at MHH. Have a great week, everybody.
Have a great end to your weekend, start to your week. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.